The film's story begins in Washington in 1974, with a child named Benjamin inside his grandfather's storage room, searching through various items. Suddenly, he saw his grandfather behind him. Benjamin said to him, "I came here to understand the whole story." His grandfather replied, "You're old enough now, and I'll tell you the story." They sat down, and the grandfather began recounting the events, saying that in 1832, Charles Carroll, the last living signer of the legal documents, knew he was going to die soon. One night, Charles woke the stableman and ordered him to take him to the White House to meet President Andrew Jackson, as he carried a significant secret he wanted to tell him. However, when they arrived, Andrew was not there, and he couldn't meet him. So Charles entrusted the secret to the person he trusted the most, my great-grandfather, Thomas Gates. The secret was about a massive treasure that had been hidden for centuries, fought over by kings and leaders, yet it remained concealed in a tunnel beneath King Solomon's temple. However, the knights found it and took it to Europe, where they earned the title Knights of the Treasure. After centuries of the treasure being transported to Europe, the knights established a free organization called the Freemasons. As time passed, war broke out during the American Revolution, and the knights were determined not to let the treasure fall into British hands. So, they hid it and left clues and maps. But over time, most of the clues disappeared, leaving only one. The grandfather then pulled out a banknote printed with the image of the temple and strange symbols, claiming it was one of the clues. At that moment, Patrick, Benjamin's father, entered and said that all of this was just myths and that the treasure didn't exist. Years later, Benjamin grew up, and one day he gathered his friends and set out on a quest to find the treasure in the Arctic Circle. Benjamin and his friends managed to find the ship Charlotte and retrieve it from beneath the ice. They entered to explore the ship and found a small box. When they opened it, they discovered a pipe that appeared valuable. Benjamin's friends were excited, thinking they could become rich by selling it. But Benjamin said the pipe was another clue. He broke the pipe, injuring his finger, and smeared his blood on the symbols, then printed them onto a piece of paper. At first, he couldn't make sense of the symbols, but after further contemplation, he deduced that the clue pointed to a hidden map behind the Declaration of Independence. However, the document was heavily protected, and they wouldn't be able to access it. At that point, Ian suggested stealing the document, stating that he had experience in this area and had carried out similar thefts before, but Benjamin refused. Shaw then said he trusted that Ian would succeed in carrying out the plan. Benjamin responded that he would not allow them to do it. At that moment, Shaw drew a gun and pointed it at Benjamin, saying, "You can't kill me because I have important information about the treasure, and you won't be able to find it without it." Shaw then aimed the gun at Riley, Benjamin's friend, and said, "Either you give us the information, or I'll kill Riley." At that moment, Benjamin pulled a flare from his pocket, lit it, and threw it at them. But Ian caught it before it hit the ground. Suddenly, Ian's hand burned, and he dropped the flare, igniting the gunpowder on the ground. Ian and Shaw fled the ship, locked the door, and drove off. Meanwhile, Benjamin and Riley escaped through a hidden tunnel inside the ship and hid in the ice. Moments later, the ship exploded. After things calmed down, Benjamin and Riley managed to get out of the ice, and then they returned to the city, heading to the International Museum, where they met with an employee named Abigail. Benjamin told her that someone was planning to steal the Declaration of Independence, but Abigail dismissed the idea, saying it was impossible. Benjamin suggested that she examine the document because they believed there was a hidden map behind it that would lead to a treasure filled with valuable historical artifacts. Abigail replied, "I have examined the document and found nothing on it." Benjamin left her office. After Abigail refused to check the document, Benjamin realized there was no other option but to steal the document himself. He explained his plan to Riley, who was hesitant and fearful of the consequences, saying, "This is a massive theft, and we'll end up in jail if we go through with it. The document is under heavy protection, and we won't be able to reach it." But Benjamin explained that the museum was hosting a party that week and the guards would be distracted by the important guests, providing them with the perfect opportunity to execute the theft. Riley agreed to the plan, and he managed to hack into the museum's cameras, while Benjamin forged a security guard's ID to impersonate him. When the time for the party came, Benjamin entered using the fake ID and met Abigail, switching her glass with his. He then headed to the restroom and applied a special powder to the glass to reveal Abigail's fingerprints. He printed her fingerprints on a clear bag he wore on his finger. Meanwhile, Ian and Shaw entered the museum through the sewers, attacked the guard, and used his fingerprint to open the door. Benjamin was able to enter the elevator using Abigail's fingerprints and reach the room containing the document. At that moment, Ian hacked the cameras, causing Riley to lose the feed. Unsure of what to do, Benjamin grabbed the document, still in its frame, and quickly exited. Suddenly, Ian and Shaw appeared and started shooting at him. Benjamin used the document's frame as a shield to deflect the bullets, then opened the elevator using Abigail's fingerprints. After removing the document from the frame, Benjamin wrapped it in a bag and hid it inside his jacket before leaving the elevator. Abigail saw him walking quickly and became suspicious, so she followed him. Benjamin entered the museum's gift shop, where the employee thought the document he was carrying was a replica from the store and asked him to pay for it. Benjamin didn't have enough cash, so he had to use his credit card. Afterward, he left the store, reached his car, and hid the document inside. At that moment, Abigail reached the car and Benjamin told her that the document he had was just a replica he had bought from the gift shop. At the same time, the museum security discovered the document had been stolen and the alarm was triggered. Upon hearing the alarm, Abigail realized Benjamin had stolen the real document and called security. Benjamin handed her the document before quickly jumping into his car. Meanwhile, Ian and Shaw exited the museum the same way they came in and got into their car. Seeing Abigail holding the document, they chased her and attempted to take it from her, but she resisted. Ian kidnapped Abigail and the document, putting them both in his car. When Benjamin saw this, he pursued them in his car and eventually managed to rescue Abigail, but the document remained with Ian. Ian was overjoyed with the document, but when he opened it, he realized Benjamin had tricked him, and the document he had was not the original. Abigail was upset, thinking that the original document was still with Ian, but Benjamin showed her the real document and said, "We warned you about the theft, but you didn't believe us." Meanwhile, Detective Peter arrived at the museum and began an investigation. After reviewing the security cameras, they noticed Benjamin in the gift shop and realized his name wasn't on the guest list. The store employee told them he had paid with a credit card. The police traced his information through the card and went to his house to arrest him, but he wasn't there. At Benjamin's home, the police discovered his books and letters he had written when he was 15 years old, where he pretended to be a woman named Silence. The police realized Benjamin was searching for the treasure, and meanwhile Ian figured out that the important clue was in Silence's letters. Benjamin returned to his father Patrick's house and told him that he needed the Silence letters he had. Patrick became angry and said, "You're wasting your time on nothing. The treasure is just a myth." Benjamin replied, "We'll discover through the document whether the treasure is real or not." They brought out the document and applied lemon juice to it. Patrick suggested they expose it to heat. They used a hairdryer and strange numbers began to appear. Benjamin told his father, "We won't be able to solve the puzzle unless we get Silence's letters." But Patrick informed him that he no longer had the letters, as he had given them to the Franklin Institute. Benjamin, Abigail, and Riley left the house to go to the Institute. Before leaving, Benjamin tied his father to a chair to prevent the police from accusing him of aiding them. When the police arrived at Patrick's house, they found him tied up, and he told them, "Benjamin tied me here and took my car to escape." In the morning, Riley arrived at the Institute and sent a small child inside to read the letters and try to match the letters with the encrypted numbers. The child began writing down the letters and handed the paper to Riley, who paid him some money and asked him to go back and finish the task. As the child was returning to the Institute, Ian noticed him and became suspicious. So he started following the boy. Before Ian could reach the child, a bus stopped in front of him. At that moment, something written on the bus caught Riley's attention. Riley realized that the phrase on the bus was the exact phrase they were searching for, the same inscription on the Liberty Bell. Realizing it was the key they were looking for, Riley quickly wrote it down. Meanwhile, Ian caught up with the child, interrogated him about what had happened, and took the paper with the final phrase written on it. After looking into the phrase, Ian discovered that it referred to an image of the Liberty Bell, allowing him to fully understand its meaning. Riley immediately rushed to Benjamin and Abigail, who were in a clothing store, and informed them that he had found the phrase they needed. Based on the phrase, they deduced that the clue was located at Independence Hall Church. They all headed to the church and climbed to the top of the building. Benjamin asked them to wait downstairs while he searched the walls. After a while, he found a stone with a strange marking, broke it open, and discovered a hidden optical lens inside. Benjamin took the lens and returned to Abigail and Riley. They pulled out the document, and Benjamin put on the glasses to see the strange symbols on it, but he couldn't make sense of them. At that moment, Riley noticed Ian's group arriving at the church through the window. Benjamin said, "I'll take the glasses and leave alone. You two take the map and exit through the other way." They executed the plan, and Benjamin left by himself, but two of Ian's men followed him. While Abigail and Riley were escaping, Abigail tripped and fell, causing her to drop the document. Ian arrived and took the document. Meanwhile, Benjamin managed to evade Ian's men, but the police caught up to him and successfully arrested him. During the interrogation, Benjamin told the investigators, "I came to you and told you that the document was going to be stolen, but you didn't believe me. So I had to steal it to protect it from Ian, but in the end he took it from me." The detective responded, "You have two options. Either you serve a long prison sentence, or you help us recover the document and get a lighter sentence." Later, Ian contacted Benjamin, and the detective allowed him to answer the call under police supervision. Ian said, "I want you to meet me aboard the American ship and bring the glasses you found, and I'll return the document to you. If the federal agents want the document intact, they better make sure you come alone." The next day, Benjamin went to the agreed location, but the police were monitoring the entire area. Ian's men approached Benjamin and said, "Go to the end of the ship and throw yourself into the water." Benjamin complied and jumped into the water, where one of Ian's men was waiting for him, pulling him away. Afterward, they all arrived at Ian's location and got into a car. At the same time, Abigail contacted Shaw and asked to speak to Benjamin. Shaw handed the phone to Benjamin, and Abigail told him that they had made a deal with Ian to get him out of jail on the condition that Ian would receive the treasure. She also informed him that Riley had managed to pinpoint their location, and if Ian broke the agreement, they would inform the federal authorities of their whereabouts. Once Benjamin reached Ian, he told him that the map indicated the treasure was hidden behind a building wall. But Ian didn't believe him. At that moment, Benjamin's father was tied up in the car, leaving Benjamin with no choice but to guide them to the treasure's location. He said, "We need to go to Trinity Church." They all headed to the church, where Benjamin opened the document and put on the special glasses, discovering a secret passage hidden within the church. Everyone entered the crypt in search of the secret passage. During the search, Riley noticed a stone bearing the same inscription that had appeared on the map. They broke the stone and found a coffin behind it. After extracting the coffin, they discovered another hidden passage and proceeded through it. The passage led them to a deep pit filled with wooden beams and old ladders. As they walked on the ladders, the wood beneath Shaw's feet gave way and he fell into the pit, causing the entire structure to shake and everyone to lose their balance. However, they managed to jump onto a wooden elevator and reached an empty room. Benjamin remarked that there were no more clues, but Ian didn't believe him. Ian and his associate took the elevator, pointing a gun at Benjamin, threatening to kill him if he didn't reveal the treasure's location. At that moment, Patrick said the treasure was in Boston, in the Old North Church. Ian believed them and left with his associate, abandoning the rest of the group in the pit. Benjamin quickly returned to the room to search for the final clue. He discovered an engraving of an eye on the wall and found a button beneath it. When he pressed it, a secret door opened, leading them to another room. But this room was also empty, making them think someone had beaten them to the treasure. However, Benjamin didn't give up and continued searching for a way out. Then, he noticed a symbol resembling the pipe he had found on the ship. He pulled the pipe from his pocket and placed it on the symbol, and suddenly, a hidden door opened. Upon entering, they discovered a massive chamber filled with ancient Egyptian statues and treasures. They realized they had finally found the treasure they had been searching for. Afterward, Benjamin found an exit and called the detective, telling him to come to the church. He handed over the document to the detective and told him they had found the treasure, requesting that it be divided between the Louvre and the Cairo Museum. He also asked for the discovery to be credited to the Gates family. He added, "I don't want to go to prison." The detective replied, "Someone has to be in prison to close the case on the theft." Benjamin then led the police to Ian's location, where he was quickly arrested. After the case was resolved, Benjamin bought a new house and married Abigail, having successfully fulfilled the legend of the treasure they had been chasing throughout their adventure.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.